Hello, you're listening to InvoNews Podcast. This is Fatma Suhail, and here we discuss latest technology trends and startups. Today we have Charlie French with us, who is going to discuss the impact investment apps. So, welcome to the show, Charlie.
Oh yeah, thanks very much for having me on. Great to be here.
Okay, so I'm gonna introduce my guest, Charlie. But most Charlie has a wide experience in investment apps. So Charlie has worked with UNICEF, different organizations, in helping them in tackling their SDGs, including stock exchange, London Stock Exchange, and Vitality. I hope that got it right.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so Charlie, are you ready? Let's start with our stellar podcast, InvoNews Podcast. Okay. Okay, Charlie, I came across a certain general perspective when I talk to investors or people who are investing in new things and apps. The general perspective they have is like if we invest in something good, it's not going to make the return or it's not going to benefit in a way that it should. Like in climate startups, in health tech startups. So, how, as a person who owns an impact investment app, you can say that they should take that doubt out of their minds and use apps or impact investment apps to generally create a persona that yes, impacting and investing in something good is gonna give you same return as not investing in something and like not investing in something climate startup or stuff.
Yeah, well, so there's a whole body of evidence now that suggests that investing through kind of an ESG lens, so that's environmental, social, and governance lens, doesn't harm performance and can actually enhance performance of companies. So I suppose you have to look at what you're investing in and look at how those industries might be performing in 5 to 10 years time, and looking at like how those companies that are well managed and which consider long-term risks and opportunities around impact and kind of ESG issues should really outperform those that don't. And we're really on the verge of like a green revolution, and we're still kind of quite early in that green transition. And I would sort of argue against that there's actually sort of a higher amount of risk at not factoring in impact into your investments. You know, if you look at the way that the world is moving, you know, the companies kind of at the forefront of climate action, for example, are going to be the companies of the future. So I would argue the complete opposite to that.
Okay, that's nice to know. Okay, let's come towards Etcho. Tell me, it helps the investors to invest in keeping with the environmental impact, right? So tell us more about it. So how did you came across the idea of Ichco? It was it your work with UNICEF inspired you to develop Ichco? Because I was going through your profile. You have a wide experience in this regard. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Etcho app helps people to learn the impact of their investments and find companies that match their morals. So someone can come onto the app and they'll be able to tell us, we'll show them 17 goals, which are the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, as I'll refer to them probably throughout from now on. But you can choose which of those goals are kind of most important to you, and then we bring up companies that kind of align to those goals. So publicly listed companies that you can invest in. There's other ways that you can discover companies. So you can kind of search through sectors and find out the kind of best performers in there. And then another kind of part of the app is that you can, if you hold stock investments somewhere else, you can kind of input that into your Etcho portfolio, and we can show you how well your portfolio aligns to each of those sustainable development goals. So you can see if you know, are performing well in climate action, or, you know, affordable and clean energy, but actually on clean water and sanitation, you're performing poorly. So you kind of get a real holistic view of how well your investments are doing, and also then you can kind of discover quite easily companies that are performing better in areas that you may want your portfolio to look better in. In terms of like my background, so yeah, I've always worked in sort of the impact space. I came at more from the not-for-profit sector. I worked within corporate social responsibility, and corporate social responsibility is a great tool, but it only really tells half the story. So I was lucky enough to work with corporates on their impact projects, but really felt that we needed to highlight companies that aren't only doing corporate social responsibility, but are driving positive change through the whole business. So looking at products and services and operations, plus social responsibility programs. So that really inspired me to kind of to launch Etcho, I guess, alongside with my co-founder, who Lyle. He worked at S&P within ESG data analytics there, and he's actually my soon-to-be brother-in-law. So we for a long time we've had So for a long time
Nice.
it's it's sort of a family connection there, and we have sort of been discussing the idea for a long time, and kind of really wanted to enable everyone to understand the true impact of their investments, I guess. So that's our story.
So that's good to know. That's good to know, actually. So tell me, from our discussion, what kind of response have you received from startups in particular about the climate change and the impact of their ideas on the climate, um,
Yeah,
for
sure. So
startups?
I think it's such an exciting space in a funny way. Like it feels sort of strange to say climate change is exciting, but when you see, because it's nothing exciting about it at all, but there's a lot of exciting startups coming to the fore now that are kind of
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at
Mm,
looking at solutions, and you can't help but be excited by that. And like at Etcho, we really believe in solutions and get excited by them, and so I think it's I think for within startups, I guess if you follow on LinkedIn and stuff like that, you're always seeing really, really exciting startups within the climate action space. And long may that continue, because we certainly need some solutions to the climate
exactly,
crisis.
exactly. We do. I came across a very interesting startup. I guess its name was Tree Points. They
3 points.
3 points. It was based in UK, and I was very fascinated about this solution. They used to, I guess, were measuring their carbon prints. So that was quite interesting for me, that startups are actually taking interest in this. That climate change is sort for 20 or 30 years back, climate change was
Mhm.
not priority. Now it is. So coming towards, let's talk. Uh, when you look at Ichko now, what was your initial idea with it? Do you think that you have fulfilled your idea, or Ichko is totally changed from what you thought of? Yeah, I'm gonna build that. I'm gonna build this like this, but now it's totally changed. What do
Mm.
you think? What do you say, that
Yeah.
it has changed or it is the same?
Yeah, so it's definitely changed since we first our first sort of ideas around Etcho. So initially we were going to build a trading application where you could actually trade on the platform.
Oh,
We've
interesting.
sort
Hmm.
of moved away from that idea now, because we've spoken to a lot of users in our user testing, and through kind of our wait lists and stuff like that. And what we found is actually people need a sort of companion. So what we're building is a companion for the
Exactly.
conscious investor,
Hmm. Hmm.
and an independent platform which wouldn't give any bias or anything like that, and be pushing you to kind of gamify your investments. What we really want people to do is have a platform that they can trust, and believe in, and that's what we're now building with Etcho. And we think that people actually prefer to, there's so many investment platforms out there, right? There's so many
Hmm.
trading apps, and people are very happy with their trading applications, but can we build something that kind of allows people to understand the impact of their investments? And I think that's kind of where we've kind of changed our route to. No, that's not to say that we'll never build the trading elements in there either, but it's just what we're focusing on now. And I guess that's what's so exciting in a startup is learning from the people that are using your app and using your service and wanting it and kind of building a product for them, rather than having this idea that loads of people want this and then finding out later that people don't actually want it. It's really important to learn
Exactly.
from actual
Yeah.
people, actual users.
Hmm. I actually read it somewhere that you are not going to make a difference until or unless you change your initial idea, and you're going to ping it, you're going to change it, so you don't come across something great. So I appreciate Ichko in a way that it is that, as you said, it is making a difference in the world. And I hope that we all understand our responsibility towards climate change. So, in term, right, you said that you wanted to build a trading platform, and the idea changed. In terms of technology, Ichko has changed, or it is the same you thought of?
Yeah, so the tech that kind of goes into Etcho is sort of the same, really, for now. In terms of like our how it's built on the back end, we use third party providers who can use sort of AI and machine learning, and kind of we then put a human element touch on that as well, because to eliminate the anomalies that machine learning and AI may
Hmm.
produce. So yeah, the tech's sort of relatively the same for now, and as we progress, I'm sure we'll develop further.
Okay, that was my next question, right? Uh, you
Good.
said you said you use AI and ML to assess the impact of the climate, right? Which
Yeah, that's
uh,
that's right. Yeah, so we do that, but we also add on the kind of human element of that, because just relying on AI and machine learning is obviously a
right.
fantastic tool that kind of
Mm.
ESG data is moving towards, but it does also need that human element afterwards to just ensure that everything's in the
Yeah.
way that it should be. So yeah,
Y-
that's for sure.
Yeah, I also believe that technology and humans should go hand in hand. Like, for 5 to 4 years back, it was like if AI comes, it gonna take over our jobs and everything. Now it's quite interesting that everything is going side by side, and it's
Mhm.
kind of nice to see technology helping people. People are making technologies like you have made a technology which is going to assess the impact of the climate. So I'm going to ask something very interesting. I was very interested in this. Tell me, you have recently obtained the pre-seed funding of £279,000. Tell me your secret recipe. How did you do it?
So I think we are both very passionate, me and Lyle and I, about
Mm.
this area and this space. And without lots of passion, I don't think you can really kind of build what you want to build. I think there's been a lot of hard work that's gone into it, and we built a great network around us and a great team around us that we're really, really grateful for. And I think, yeah, those kind of three things around sort of passion, hard work, and building a great network are the things that have led us to where we are. I don't think that we're successful at all yet. We've got a long way to go, but we're sort
Mm.
of, hopefully we're on the right track to building what we really want to build and enabling everyone to learn the impact of their investments.
You are on a right path. Tell me, do you think, from our discussion, I came across this question in my mind. Do you think that as a startup, startups should have a certain step to, reach towards funding pre-seed? That they should fill, like there are 5 steps. You should fulfill these steps, and you can reach towards pre-seed funding. Or is it like you have to, go with flow or something like that?
I think every situation for every different startup is unique, and
Hmm.
every startup kind of needs to look at their own sort of models and how that works. There's a lot of I guess a lot of startups are will need funding in order to kickstart, whereas some startups can sort of get going maybe without funding, kind of building a product. We're building an app which is obviously high cash intensive, so we kind of sort of needed the investment beforehand in order to get it up and running. So I think there's plenty of different ways in which startups may look at their kind of starting journey, or
Hmm.
the very early stages, and I think that's sort of, it's very difficult to say what works for one startup
Hmm.
may not
Yeah.
work for another. So
Yeah.
that's a difficult
Hmm.
one to answer.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me, what about the future? From 5 years from now, where do you see the role of impact investment?
So I think that impact investment will become the norm. I think it will be the mainstream. I don't think it will even be called impact investment anymore. I hope not. I think it will just be called investment, and people will just be
Yeah.
taking this into account.
It's
Just
become
taking it into
mandatory.
account.
Yeah.
Exactly, mandatory,
Uh,
and we are seeing that a lot more frameworks being built out. I think there's a lot of kind of issues with coordination. Sort of,
mm,
there's loads of different providers, different methodologies, and I think kind of tech can play a role in solving those issues. There's a few opinions around at the moment that kind of what ESG can learn from blockchain, so that could be quite an interesting one to watch. I think,
yeah.
I think there'll be kind of an increased framework, increased kind of scrutiny as well. And I think public pressure, public opinions sway, like moving so fast,
Mm,
that I think it will become very much in the mainstream. And yeah, I don't think it will be called impact investing. I think it will just be called investing in the future.
yeah, I hope so. And tell me, where do you see Etcho?
Well, we hope, our mission is to enable everyone to learn the impact of their investment. So
Mm,
we hope that we can kind of get to a place where every investment decision has factored in the use of Etcho. So
mm,
whoever you are, whether you're a kind of a retail investor or institutional investor, maybe you look at what Etcho has said about the investments, or using Etcho to kind of check the impact of those potential investments. And we'd love to get to that position. And we're just at the start of our journey, so we're really excited for what the future brings.
nice. That's good to know. Tell me, as a founder of an app, let's come towards that side. As a founder of an app, do you think that as a founder, there you have certain responsibilities? Uh, you have responsibilities. Is this like that you are responsible for every single thing that is going, in your startup? You have your team, but you are responsible for the major decisions. Uh, that sometimes burdens you, or you guess you are like, oh, I should have you. Of course you have your co-founder, but sometimes like it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I guess, as I said earlier, that we built like a really great network around us, and I think that's so key for a startup, to have a great network around you, because you can't do everything yourself. You have to be able to
Hmm.
trust in the people that you bring in to do their jobs, and to do them well. And I think if you are lucky enough, like we have been, to bring in a brilliant people around us, you can really sort of trust that and focus on the things that need to be focused on, because just ultimately you can't be perfect at every single role. So it's great to kind of bring in people who can fill in those gaps, like myself and Lyle. We don't have tech backgrounds, so we've been lucky enough to kind of bring in James, who's been brilliant in the tech, and help, and designers such as Georgie and Max, who have been brilliant in the kind of branding and helping us design a great product. And obviously Henry as well, who's our NED, our non-exec director, who's been fantastic. So I think it's about being able to kind of recognize where your gaps may be, and filling them with with great talent. It's not always easy, but we've been really lucky, and with us.
Kudos to you guys. Okay. Tell me, have you ever thought that you have your in-house team? Have you ever thought that I should hire someone from outside? It's a lot to take in, or sometimes it is like overwhelming. So have you ever thought like I should hire someone? I should hire some team. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's constantly kind of flicking back and forth between wanting to sort of hire more. Obviously, um, hires are great. We'd love to kind of have more hires, but currently with the current funding and stuff, you have to sort of prioritize with what you need, and that's really important to sort of prioritize exactly what's essential at a very early stage startup, for sure.
yeah. Tell me, in terms of regions, which region do you think is the most conscious in terms of impact investment? Is it Asia? Is it Europe?
That's a good question. I think, honestly, I think that this is a global movement. I think everywhere you can see this kind of trickling into the mainstream. As I said earlier, I'm based in the UK and I'm seeing such a huge amount of interest here. But I think I really do believe that it's global. I think everywhere in the world, as you said earlier, you're in Pakistan, but you're interested in this space. I think everyone that I speak to from all over the world is interested in it, and I think it's just about building out platforms such as Etcho that to kind of enable people to sort of understand and motivate them to get into it and to learn more and to sort of take more action through their investments and through their money. So I think the answer to that is that it's a global movement for a global problem.
Oh, that's good to know. I was like that European region is, I came across startups. European region is much more sensitive to this. My perspective was that, but it's kind of good to know from you that all around the world this movement is surging, right?
I think so. I think maybe in some regions it's potentially more advanced than others, but I have seen kind of movement from all over the globe. So I think it's yeah, I would say it's definitely global. Some places are
Hmm.
potentially more further advanced than others, but I think that everywhere is kind of shifting the narrative really as to what's important, and I think that's I think
Hmm.
we're still a few years away from it becoming uh, you know widespread across the whole globe, but I think we are kind of getting we're seeing the early signs of it at least.
That's good to know. Uh, do you think that in Italy, COVID has actually instigated this process more?
Um,
It has a positive
that's a tough
impact.
question because I think COVID should and could have been the wake up call that we needed. But I think there's sort of been a big rush to kind of get back to normal, get things back
Hmm.
to how it was pre-pandemic. That maybe there's a slight, from my side, maybe a slight disappointment in the way that we've kind of gone back and shifted back to the way that it was. But I do think that COVID probably was a big wake up call. I think as to kind of how the future could look. Well, it's not really the future, is it? It's the present. So I think I think
Hmm.
I think it has been good for in some senses, but I guess I've
Hmm.
been potentially slightly disappointed that
Hmm.
it's not prompted kind of faster responses, I guess,
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
because
Yeah,
it's
you're right. We are so much desperate to, rush towards normal that we are
mm,
avoiding things, little things, with not little things, big things that actually might have caused climate change, COVID, and other
yeah.
kind of things. So, Charlie, it was great talking to you. Um,
And you, thanks so much for having us on, or me on, Etcho on, and
no,
me.
it was simply a pleasure. It was simply an honor and pleasure for us.
Yeah,
Okay, I
for
hope that technology changes the way um, we are investing right now, and I hope that we move towards more sustainable future. So anything you want to say in your closing remarks, anything about climate change, about it, whatever, anything.
Just yeah, nothing really. I think we covered a lot. So thanks a lot for having me on. I think the Etcho app, for anyone that's interested, will be launching in June. So we kind of we've got people signing up to our wait list now, so you can visit that through
Oh, nice.
etcho.io as the website. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you may have as well. And yeah, thanks very
That's a sure
much.
thing. That's a sure thing. I actually came across your website. I came across your old website, and now I came across your new website. And I must say, your new website is really cool.
Thanks, thanks very much. I'll
It's really
pass
good.
that
I
back to the
found it
team.
so attractive. It was like, so rich, I must say.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Yeah, thanks very
best of
much.
luck to you guys. Great.
Yeah, well,
It's
thank you, and you.
like, thank you. That's all for now. We will be here real soon. Okay. So, thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you so much for being with us. And I wish you best of luck for your future endeavors. Thank you so much.